astronomy clubs. That scared me. But maybe whoops. I just different kinds of groups and different kinds of thinking as well. So that really kind of gets more into the practice. And from that, I was able to get the 10 Outstanding Young Americans Award for having science communications on a national level. I help with Midwest rural communities because myself growing up in a rural community, I now know what was I missing in my childhood. How can I better other rural communities back in West Virginia, but also usually in the Midwest, doing grad school in Arkansas. Oh goodness, there was a lot lacking there. So just having that mindset of like, what didn't I have? And then how can I improve the communities to better those resources for sure. So there's something called the leaking bucket challenge I want to kind of quickly touch base on. So we are getting more girls in STEM, yay! Hopefully at a younger age, you get all the like the STEM Barbies kind of deal. You get all the STEM kits, like little miniature toy microscopes now to, give a kid a telescope for Christmas. It's so exciting. So yay, we're doing great with that. It's the retention. It's keeping them in the STEM bucket, and this is where the leaking part comes in, is that as of a 2021 TED Talk, fantastic TED Talk, you can find it on YouTube. It's more than 40% women leave STEM within 5 years of starting. So we're bringing in so much more women in STEM, but it's the retention that is the current challenge right now. And so we need to really start brainstorming as to how can we better ourselves with this. So just some minor hopeful advice to give you is that there is no single definition of success. And how we choose to define success for ourselves is a challenge in itself. So you yourself need to explore your own definition of success. Whether you meet more women in STEM, fantastic. Coming to lectures like this, we're happy you're here. But find more relatable role models. Don't go straight to the CEO and figure out how did they succeed, because that's usually not a good way to go about it. A CEO that's been going on about this for 50 plus years, how they started in their journey would be vastly different than current. Not to say that you can't talk with them or anything, but find more relatable in the present role models. So people about 2 or 3 steps ahead is kind of the number. If you're an undergraduate and you want to go to grad school, go talk to grad students. If you're a grad student and you're wanting to go to like a faculty position, talk to very current higher faculty members, and talk to faculty members of different stages of their faculty professorship. Are they assistant faculty? Are they head of a department, or are they tenured? Are they emeritus? You have your different stages there, but concentrate on your own STEM path. And I know this is incredibly difficult to say this, and I'm still learning to deal with this too. So I know it's easier said than done, but do not compare your STEM journey to others. Don't compare your own racetrack to someone else and go like, but I'm the same age as them, and they already published 5 papers, and they've already won all these awards and scholarships and grants. Don't do that to yourself. You figure out what you need to do and what you want to do to get to where you need to go. Don't compare yourself to others. That just boggle your mind. So in all intents and purposes here, 3 main takeaways I want to give you is your personal health first. All right. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're no longer enjoying your science and your journey, or you're like, I need a compass direction change or something, take care of you first and foremost. Your STEM is still there. It's still going to be there the next day. It's still going to be there the next week, but you need to take you into account first. Find support, other students, talk to, maybe faculty members could be your support too. Other organizations, local organizations, societies, and then practice your STEM. And I hate the cliche of practice makes perfect here, because STEM itself is not perfect. And that's the fun part about science, right? If science was perfect, we'd all be bonkers. But no, practice your STEM, practice what you want to study and what you want to learn. Even if it's something completely outside of your wheelhouse, you're like, you know what? I want to learn about banana slugs. Why not? Banana slugs are weird. I want to read papers about them. Why go read papers about banana slugs? I wonder what would happen to a banana slug if you put it on the surface of Mars. Probably wouldn't be good for the banana slug, but it's those kinds of questions that really, make you ask more questions. Try to figure out answers if you want, but it's more and more questions that are going to pop up. But it's all in the practice. Practice your STEM, practice your journey. And I'll leave you with this final quote: STEM doesn't define us, we define STEM. Thank you for having me today.
That was amazing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Caitlin.
I hear echoes. We hear echoes. I guess we next. Oh my God! I several of the comments from the speakers you can see are talking about the enthusiasm, the energy. You've got a fan club. At 19, I didn't even know how to spell. Forget getting a patent. I still didn't know at 3 times that age about your field itself. Chirovolcanic, new words that we're learning. And so here we are. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. This is such an honor. Oh my God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Next, let's go to Dr. Kim Clay.
Awesome, thank you. And thanks CCVC for having me, Sheila, and for your amazing work in honor of your friend. What Caitlin has shared is a much different route to STEM than what I took to this work. And so I'll share a little bit about that. And you may or may not see me. For some reason, my technology is not cooperating today. I'm going to pull up my slides, which are largely visual. So give you just a little break from seeing my face, perhaps. As a little girl growing up in rural Mississippi, right outside of West Memphis, Arkansas, I was incredibly curious as to why I didn't see other girls like me and my friends, playing with Tonka trucks, perhaps digging up dirt, building hovercrafts. I wanted to understand precisely why we weren't in the media or even on the sidelines in some sports, and why we weren't in the flight deck. And to the point just made, why weren't we actually taking a mission to the moon? That kept me curious as a girl growing up in this small little town outside of Ole Miss. And it's the same for me in the case of math, technology, and engineering. I was always curious, but never was told, although I performed very well, that I actually had potential in any of the STEM spaces. So I never really read stories or saw shows about the smart girl, the brown girl, or the curvy girl like me, or the girls with any real depth. In fact, what I saw most of the time was, girls who weren't the scientists, who weren't the innovators, who weren't engineering anything, but instead the girl who was constantly on a fad diet, feverishly crying and waiting to be rescued, but not actually the hero of her own story. But what I knew then and what I know now is that dreams are intended to unlock endless possibilities. And for a small town girl, rural Mississippi, that's exactly what got me out of those circumstances to the work that I now do, providing the opportunity, the exposure for thousands of middle school girls through sport to be able to tap into their full potential through those endless possibilities available to them. My route was health communication. I actually went to college at Xavier University, which graduates, ironically, the highest number of African Americans into medical school, public health, engineering, and pharmacy, the pharmacy PharmD program. Xavier's had this accolade upon them for now 20, 30 years. But that's not why I actually went to the school. I actually read a story about a distant cousin who had gone for speech pathology and was graduating, had never met her, never had a conversation with her, but I knew I needed a way out of my small town. And I decided I would emulate her. So she was my very first role model, at least for my career path, that I can identify. Because I'd read so many stories about her success during her college pursuit. And so I decided that's where I'm gonna go. Unbeknownst to me, a whole world opened up. I was pursuing mass communication and somehow bumped into public health. I was hired by the US Department of Energy for a summer internship out in Portland, Oregon, that ultimately led me back to the South, doing work looking at the impact of waste sites, military waste sites, on long-term cancer survivorship in individuals in Anniston, Alabama, near a dump site. And that was really my introduction to STEM. And it was yet still not probably 20 years into my career until I actually recognized myself in the work that I was doing at STEM. From there, I was recruited into my first position after my master's degree. I received both a Master of Public Health and a Master of Social Work at Tulane University. I was then invited to a position at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, where I then launched into the deep of this work around cancer. And ultimately, that is the work that led me back to school to acquire my PhD in health education, where I largely focused on cancer prevention and cancer control and cancer survivorship, but from a translational perspective around how we actually live our lives and how we live our lives to prevent the onset of cancer, if indeed that is possible. We believe so with diet and exercise, which is why we play like girls. And then ultimately, how we survive cancer when diagnosed and treated. So we know dreams. They're intended to unlock endless possibilities. Yet there seems to be still a huge gap in the way that we as girls are portrayed. By age 8, some even say by age 6, girls like us, me, Caitlin, you on the other side of the screen, we stop dreaming. We stop believing, we stop thinking ourselves as capable of doing and being anything that we want, that we can imagine. And we start to think that the boys are smarter, the boys are stronger, and the boys are more powerful. And this problem has been recognized by researchers at the University of Southern California as the dream gap. When a girl faces the reality for herself at such a young age that she can't be and do whatever it is that she can imagine. That's the dream gap. It robs a girl of her ability to value herself and to see her dreams as viable. And so I think about, if I didn't know that my dreams were valuable, if I didn't know that my dreams were viable at any stage in my career, if I had not thought it was possible for me to actually pursue an education, to leave my small town, I could not imagine the impact that that would have on every girl whose life I've touched through the work that I do with Play Like a Girl. So think about this. Everyone has dreams, and little girls too have dreams that need to be fostered, need to be nurtured, and they need to see and believe that anything is possible. So I'd like to show this quick little film from Barbie entitled Close the Dream Gap.
Let's talk about the dream gap. What's that? It's the gap that comes between girls and their full potential. You see, starting at age 5, girls stop believing they can be presidents, scientists, astronauts, big thinkers, engineers, CEOs, and the list goes on. Why? Because what else are we going to believe? When we are 3 times less likely to be given a science-related toy. That's sad. And when our parents are twice as likely to Google, is my son gifted? Then is my daughter gifted? That's not cool. We need to see brilliant women being brilliant and see how they got to where they are. To imagine ourselves doing what they do. But we can't do it alone. Moms, dads, brothers, and bosses. We need all of you to help. We need to close the dream gap. It's up to all of us.
So we partner with brands like Barbie and Mattel to help girls all across the US, mainly in Nashville, which is where I call home, to actually see the possibilities, to believe that the unimaginable is imaginable, to ask the questions of why and who, which is actually what I did a lot of early in my career, asking those big questions. Why isn't there better representation for girls and women in STEM? Not only STEM, but also in sports. Why are women an untapped pipeline to the workforce? Or why do girls have so few positive female role models in, what we know are competitive male-dominated careers, especially in the STEM space? And more importantly, who is going to do something about it? That's what I decided to do. Back in 2010, I left my career as a university professor at the University of Georgia to run Play Like a Girl full time. This organization, which started 18 years ago in 2004, was actually birthed out of a doctoral program classroom project, and took on a life of its own. Me not expecting that it would become something formalized like a nonprofit. It was literally initially just a vision project, a way to educate the community about their risk for cancer and to help them make choices, lifestyle choices that would change their predisposition as well as their survivorship of those cancers. That is how we started. We knew that all roads in chronic disease typically lead from a place of physical inactivity, poor eating, and other poor health behaviors. And so this notion of playing, active play, not necessarily at that point were we even thinking sport. That notion of play is what propelled us into the work that we're now doing today. It was in 2012 that ESPNW actually got notice of our work. We had just been funded by NFL Hall of Famer Cowboy Emmitt Smith to do our very first sport program with girls. And they took notice. They awarded me the Everyday Hero Award, flew me out to California, brought me into the ESPNW Women in Sports community. And I often say that was the game changer for Play Like a Girl. The very next year, ESPNW and Ernst & Young released a global study that showed that of 400 women in the C-suite, 94%, 94, meaning 6 shy of 100, 94% of women in the C-suite played sport. 56% of them played through college. And that was my aha moment. It was the moment that I recognized my own work in the space of STEM. It was the moment that I recognized that sport, something we had been doing for years at that point, that it was a gateway for more than just improved health and chronic disease prevention and control, but it was perhaps the open door to helping girls gain equality, and economic opportunity, that perhaps it would be the answer that for girls from underserved communities to break the intergenerational cycle of poverty and wasted potential for the first time, that this whole thing we'd been doing around sport, that we could actually pair it with something with an academic focus like STEM, and that we could use it to actually change the trajectory of girls' lives. And so that's when we introduced STEM to the work that we were doing at Play Like a Girl. And it has been unforgettable. The girls that you see on this screen are girls who started with us now 5 years ago. These girls are going into high school, most of them going into a STEM designated school in the state of Tennessee. They have headpieces and gear representing their dreams, their visions for themselves in their careers, how they can bring their love and passion for sport together with their propensity towards greatness in STEM. Let's take Maya, who has the cars and she's decked out in her race gear. She's an example of why this year we enter into a partnership with IndyCar, why we take girls on the backside of the Indy 500 and we teach them and show them about the paddock and the garages and how, the actual tires are manufactured at Firestone, which is headquartered in Nashville. How women are engineering the literal wheels, the cars under the hood. Women are running the front shop as well, counting that money, making sure people are getting paid across a sport that spans not only the US, but also the world. It is because of Maya that we actually get to bring women, not only as the driver, the racer, but an entire team this year to the race to perform yet again among the guys. It is because of Maya that I decided to be the who, the person who was going to answer the call of doing something about that leaky STEM pipeline. So it is this work that I live, breathe, and dream about every single day. I get up and I actually get to live my dreams. And so it is that I encourage each of you as you pursue, whether it is on the path of science, on the path of sport, or on the path to something else, that you find the thing that feeds your soul, but also serves other people. There is so much room, so much space, so much opportunity for each of us to give. Role models are critical and important. Mentorship is as well, because representation truly does matter. And as we say to our girls, STEM is everywhere and in everything, whether it is your primary job or somehow it intersects with the work that you do. What our girls are proving is that STEM is there. And so it is my honor that we do this work and that this year we're offering our second year of scholarships to young women of color who are attending historically Black colleges and universities. So if you know of a young woman who needs some funding to get through her undergraduate or graduate studies, please send her to the Play Like a Girl website at iplaylikeagirl.org, because we recognize that we've got to see our girls all the way through to that actual career. We want to get them to the C-suite. And so it takes us being committed every step of the way. In addition to that, if you are looking for summer internships, whether it is in marketing or curriculum development or education, anything you can imagine, we have a place for you at Play Like a Girl. In fact, this summer in particular, we are re-engineering our college program. So we will be with college students building the new iteration of Play Like a Girl chapters on collegiate campuses all across this country. So you can be a part of creating something that will live many, many years forward. And so find your place. Representation matters. Giving back, being that role model, and mentoring someone else up is also crucial in the work that you do as a STEMness. So I would like to close with just a little bit about who we are at Play Like a Girl. As you heard earlier, We were founded in 2004. We are indeed a recognized 501c3 charitable organization, but most importantly, we are working to leverage, to level the playing field, and specifically doing so by taking the confidence, leadership skills, and teamwork ability that girls get from sport to help propel them forward in what we know is a challenging, competitive, but quite rewarding set of careers in the STEM space. So thank you for having me. And I'd love to stop here just to give you all an opportunity to have your questions answered before we get off today's call.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kimberly Clay. This was just, what a treat for us. Oh my God. I think if I'd heard both of you when I was younger, I might have become a scientist, but I guess it's too late for that to go. Well, never too late in life, as we always tell people, but really inspiring, really impressive, really exciting. So I think we need to open it up for questions. I guess somebody else is going to MC and come on stage to do that. Who's taking over? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to, on behalf of Global Education Advisory Board and our college, I would like to thank you both speakers for what a wonderful speeches. Thank you, Sheila, for introducing them. And thank you everyone for being part of this great event. So I would like, if you have questions for both speakers, feel free to drop the questions in the chat box and I'll be happy to read them. So I have a question for both speakers. How do you think young girls can increase their love for STEM field?
I'll quickly answer that one. It's how Caitlin finished her presentation, practice it. We are all about exposing our girls to the greatest degree possible. So we're constantly creating opportunities for them to actually solve problems with technology, with science. And so giving them those opportunities to practice, I think, are especially critical.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. How can we get in contact with both of you? And this is a question for both speakers.
Yeah.
Dr.
So,
and Dr. Clay.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at I Play Like a Girl, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. My personal tag is Dr. Kim Clay, so keep it simple, it's easy. My phone number, which I don't mind sharing, is 615-601-1864. My email address, and these come directly to me, y'all, so it's real, is K as in Kimberly, S as in Sam, my last name, Clay, C-L-A-Y, at iplaylikeagirl.org. And our web address is iplaylikeagirl.org.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clay. Dr. Caitlin.
Yeah, so sorry, I don't have an Instagram. Oh no, but I do have a Twitter at Aaron's Science. And an email is caitlin.aarons@nasa.gov. Yeah, feel free to email me if anybody just wants to just chat science communications, or you have any questions outside of today and like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, or how do I want to get into X, Y, and Z. Feel free to email us.
I have another question from another student. What do you think is the most valuable skill we can give women looking to go into STEM field?
Caitlin, you want to take that one?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. I'm trying to find it in chat box.
And I'll answer while, okay, go ahead.
What do you think is the most valuable skill we can give women looking to go into the STEM field?
Oh goodness, the most valuable skill. Oh, there's so many skills. Most valuable skill, just keeping up that curiosity. Because keeping up that curiosity should be your main drive. No matter what anybody tells you. Again, don't let anybody tell you like you must study this. You need to study this. No, if you find something interesting, keeping that curiosity and asking the questions, and fall down as many rabbit holes as you can and want. I as much as you're physically and mentally able to, of course, but keeping that curiosity and practicing as well. I Looking towards STEM would certainly be a valuable skill. And you wouldn't think curiosity is a skill. Curiosity should be more of a trait, but not really. It should definitely be a skill that you practice. How do you go to the library, go read library books. Most libraries nowadays are starting to become more prevalent with STEM programming. Great. Involve yourself with those, immerse yourself in those.
Thank you so much, Dr. Caitlin. I have a good question actually from a male student present in the meeting. As a male student, what can I do to further involvement of women in the STEM field?
So allyship is so critical. I talk about this often. In fact, with our Women's Leadership Summit, both last year and this year, for Women's History Month, we actually invited men to be a part of our panels, sharing their perspectives and where men are actually intervening and inviting women to the table. So, often I talk about mentorship. We do a lot of it at Play Like a Girl. We focus a lot on role models, but we also really focus on allyship and the importance of sponsorship, because often men are at the tables, right? Men are in the rooms making those decisions. And it's critical that men actually shepherd and steward a space for women at the table, sometimes even building a seat at the table for women. So I think that it is critical that you start, even if it is in your laboratory, if it's in your office, if it's, in your little cubicle, whatever space you have influence with, making space for women, being intentional, being inclusive, and also being respectful. I saw some of the questions and comments about, is the leaky pipeline or even the leaky bucket problem really about, the difficulty of getting people into the field versus what's happening, what's being messaged to women once we get there. I think it is a combination of the two. I think Caitlin also highlighted that we are seeing more women in the field now, right? But it is exactly that. Once we arrive, it is the discouragement, the messages that she's received. It is the lack of representation, the lack of additional women out there willing to stand up as well and put themselves on the hot seat for other women. But also it is the lack of men who are really making way for women in the rooms where those conversations are being had about she should be let go because she's pregnant. It's all of the many things that women face that perhaps men do not. And I think, yes, a lot of it is on the other side. Once you've started the degree program, you first got to finish it. Then if you finish it, then you've got to get the job. Then if you get the job, you've got to actually stay on the job. So the challenges for women are unique at every step of the way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clay. I have another question. What portion of, and this is for both speakers, what portion of the workers that you have working with you are female?
100%. I am so proud. In fact, this year I did a complete overhaul, and I love the men in my life. I'm married to one and actually parent to. However, it was time as a woman-run brand for women by women that we actually represent the population we serve. So now every contractor, every staff person, and all but 2 board members are female.
That makes me happy to hear that. I was like clapping in the background. Yeah. Oh goodness. So thankfully NASA is doing fantastic work with bringing a lot more women into the workforce. Representation, however, there's still a lot of work to be done for sure. And myself and a couple colleagues are actually going to be doing a whole week-long workshop of diversity and inclusivity in the planetary sciences in mid-April, and we're going to start brainstorming on how do we start bringing more underrepresented groups, kind of deal. So that's fascinating now that we're finally having these conversations. But as an undergrad, I was the only female in my physics department. In grad school, really bumped up to 80% of my department was female. And it was so strange for me. I was like, there's other girls here. What do I talk about? How do I talk to other girls? What do I do? It was such a mind-blown experience of like, there's other girls here. What how do I talk to a girl? Which you wouldn't expect to hear from a 20-something-year-old, but whatever. And then now in my department, it's about 50-50 males and females. But again, with inclusivity, we also have a lot of the LGBTQ communities here at NASA as well. And so I'm referencing Dr. Clay's quote here of just allyship, just absolute allyship is very important to bring us further in any kind of STEM field.
And then one more question for you, Dr. Caitlin. Do you think the leaking bucket problem happens because of the difficulty of the fields or due to rude remarks and rejection from male peers?
All of the above, but I'm going to reference back to Dr. Clay of just everybody's, go from point A to point B to point C. Everybody's going to have a unique STEM journey, which is great, but everybody's also going to have the unique challenges as well. So it's not just the rude remarks. It's not just the hoops. It can be layers and layers of bias. You have sexism, you got racism, you got, oh goodness gracious, you can even have language barriers. I've seen so many different kinds of cultural and language barriers being challenges of like, oh, I can't understand you, I'm not going to hire you. You can unfortunately have grudges. You can unfortunately have grudges like I had before.
I think easy when you want them to Jamaica say go buy a house.
Kimberly Moses, could you please mute, please? Kimberly Moses. Thank you.
So all of those very specific challenges, I hate to say it's all of the above, but understanding that those are challenges and understanding how to combat it, but how to also just move forward with it. How do you just, brush it off and understand it, but also move forward with what you want to do, kind of deal. Dr. Clay, do you have any additions to that?
Yeah, one of the principles that we teach our girls is that failure should be used as fuel. And I think, Caitlin, you have been such a great example of that, right? What we know is that confidence and resiliency is especially important for girls, especially for the girls that we serve at that critical point, transitioning from middle school to high school, when most girls drop out, both on STEM interest as well as sport. In fact, for sport, girls drop out at twice the rate of boys, forfeiting all of those amazing skills that girls would get from sport, right, to help propel them forward in career. So that's why it's so critical for us during the middle school years. But what we learned in the science is that girls are dropping out often because they are lacking the confidence, lacking representation, right? That permission that they too can be brilliant and do brilliant things. But the other piece is failure paralyzes them. And so when you teach the engineering design process as a core element of life itself, like all of us are failing to ultimately get to the success, to get to the win, to get to that thing that we're trying to accomplish, I think it changes that fixed mindset to the growth mindset, such that the girls are able to see the benefit of failing and failing forward. So that's part of what we teach our girls, is that failure should fuel where you want to go, where you see yourself. But first, we've got to actually get them to seeing themselves doing the brilliant things that other brilliant women have themselves not yet realized. And that's the critical piece for this generation. I say we will, through Play Like a Girl, make this the last generation of first. That is my commitment.
Thank you so much. I would like one more time to thank you both speakers for your wonderful speeches, and then thank you everyone for being part of this great event. Once again, on behalf of our college and the Global Education Advisory Board, thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Great
Dr.
job.
Clay. Thank you, Dr. Clay. I would like to remind everyone, Dr. Kimberly Clay provided the information in the chat box for you to use it and to reach out to her.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great
Final comment.
afternoon.
Thank you all.
Dr. Leonidas will make a final comment
Yeah,
before we close.
I would just like to make this final comment. This has been fascinating, the story of your journeys, and I'll bet neither of you have ever been called brilliant babies before. And while I guess you won't put that on your vita, coming from Sheila Murthy, that is an extraordinary compliment. So thank you for your frank depiction of your story. It's like a modern day Hidden Figures. Got a long way to go, but thank you. And Sheila, thank you for making this possible. And Intella, thank you for making it possible.
Thank you all.
Go Razorbacks.
Yes, fellow Razorback. Oh my goodness, look at that. If I was in my other office, I have a little squishy red pig, a little red Razorback tusk.
Wow. It's a great presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.